So the Western producer came out with 2 different articles on Monette Farms recently and what they are going through. And, first and foremost, our hearts go out to this company, Daryl, and everything that they're going through. It can't be easy to grow to that size and then get into a position where it's publicly told within your community of the hardship that your company has fallen into. It takes a lot of courageous choices to get to that size, and it is not easy. And then it's not easy in the same breath to be in a position to potentially lose all of it. And there's so many lessons to potentially unpack here. And of course, we can't unpack it all in our session, but we're definitely going to bring you some highlights that we think are going to be really important for all of you in the agricultural industry to really keep in the back of your mind, because even though it's not possible the Western producer has the entire story, there's probably so much going on there. And the only reason why we know half the stuff that's even in the 2 articles is basically because it's become public knowledge because it's in the courts. We're not here to throw salt on top of an existing wound, but we want to use something like this to really learn from it and hopefully prevent any of you from having to cope with something like this as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's been in the headlines. If the algorithm feeds you anything related to agriculture here in Canada and maybe in the US too, then you have probably seen over the past week something related to the situation unfolding at Monette Farms. And so there's a few different reasons it drew my attention and why I kept reading on. But one reason is because they referenced cash value in life insurance policies.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I know is raising some curiosity.
Mm-hmm, for sure. There's a lot of specific details in here, but it doesn't get specific enough for us to actually know if these are dividend paying whole life insurance contracts, which is what Lacy and I advocate for, or whether they are universal life policies. So that part we don't know, because both styles of policies do have cash value in them, right? What's kind of cool though about this is just it is a form of affirmation that because I totally know that most people who start looking at dividend paying whole life insurance contracts don't really comprehend how much of an asset class this really is. The fact that references here in the article, the fact that the Bank of Scotia used it as a form of collateral for money. Okay, that means something. Just like your land is collateral, so are your policies. But do you actually want to get to a point where your policies are used as a form of collateral for your debt? And the answer is no. When it gets to that point, you know that you're highly, highly leveraged. I know there was other things that you wanted to add to this. So what were one of the things that you wanted to focus on today, Lacy?
It's easy to from the outside looking in to make assumptions. My dad used to say, well, that's what you get for assuming.
Right.
And so I don't know, I always remember that. But it just got me thinking, in this Western producer article, it says massive expansion over the past recent years or whatever. And so it got me thinking about our policies and how when we get them set up, we can be, or even just, exploring the concept, it can be well, how fast can I get to point B? How fast can I get to, I just had this conversation last week. How fast can I get to $400,000 in cash value? Well, I can show you, but there are so many pieces of the puzzle that have to fit together for that to be a reality. And so much like, any business, this, the farm, we want it to grow and we want to grow our income every year. But how fast we do that is very crucial. You and I do a really good job I think we do, at saying look, here's your numbers. If you do this is how long it is going to take you to get to whatever that goal is for that particular client. And so I think this situation, this cannot be an easy situation to be in.
Absolutely not.
Especially when you are in the public eye and everybody is coming down with their assumptions and their judgments. And at the end of the day, this is a family. This is a family farm.
With supporting many other families in the area, I'm sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Supporting many other families. And, lots of people's worlds go round because of this farm. And so I think what caught my attention was wait, their cash value and their life policies was security. We want to change your mindset and what you believe about life insurance. And we want to make it where it is a tool that walks alongside you as your business partner.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, this Monette Farms, their life insurance policies, yes, have come alongside them as a business partner, but in a way that we don't like to see, and it can't be easy. But I do think it speaks for the asset class that they should be seen in,
and
in the eyes of the general public.
Well, and what also catches my attention on this particular article, it says, and this is the article written by Karen Bruyere. I hope I said her last name right. And it, again, this particular article is it says a creditor moves to recoup debt from Monette Farms, and one of the first two sentences says, however, the court is also expected to deal with an application from the Bank of Nova Scotia to be excluded from a further stay so it can collapse substantial life insurance policies on the CEO. So how do you interpret that? So application from bank to be excluded from a further stay so it can collapse a substantial life. So the Bank of Nova Scotia wants to collapse the life policies that are used for key person insurance on the CEO of the company. Is that?
So it can collapse substantial life insurance policies. So you know what? When I read that, my first instinct is, what does she mean by collapse?
I think it's cancel it, terminate the contract. That's how I interpret it. So to me, this whole sentence reads, Bank of Nova Scotia wants to terminate the life insurance contract so that they can get to obtain the cash values of the policies to pay down the debt.
So it's uncertain whether they're interpreting that they terminate the policies. In my mind, when I read collapse, I read that as they want to obtain all of the cash surrender value that is available in those policies. But here's what I don't know. Can they terminate that life coverage on the person who's insured? Because if they can terminate that coverage, I don't think I agree with that. Maybe they could offer a different type of coverage on the life. But yes, it does state that the policies were assigned as security to the bank, but the value, the monetary value, I don't know if they mean the insurance on that person. And that's where I would want to get very clear.
Yeah, for me, the way, again, because it's written by someone who probably, it's tough to say.
We don't know if how well versed they are in life insurance.
Right, if they're using the complete verbiage correctly. But it does say Scotiabank to obtain the cash surrender value. So to me, it's not the cash value, it's cash surrender value. So this is why, to me, it reads like they want to completely terminate the contract so that they can get at the cash surrender value.
Yeah, because the cash surrender value is what is paid out when a policy is terminated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so,
but that also means
that
also means that they're killing the death benefit that will happen or will be given to the life company. Because I'm sure I'm making assumptions. Okay, here's an assumption. My assumption is that these Keyman insurance policies were created under the name of Monette Farms. And so the beneficiary of these contracts ought to also be Monette Farms if they're corporate contracts.
Right.
So, well, they should be anyways. Otherwise, there's huge taxable implications there. And so that means something. That can be...
It does.
That's not an easy decision to make. You know, the banks may just want their money, but that could really put a lot of risk on the actual operations as they exist by taking away those policies. And not to mention, we don't know if the people insured in this arrangement are even insurable.
Yeah. And that's
now.
what I was getting at is like, I would be interested to know, like, are they going to offer to move just the life coverage portion of it to a different type of policy so that the coverage stays in place on their life? Because as we said in previous episodes, having life insurance coverage is a privilege. That would be a question that I for sure have. But here's the thing, like in this article where it states like the cash surrender value is 6.8 million. I mean, that doesn't even touch the $900 million in debt that earlier in the article that it states. So
Then why do that? If you get rid of all the insurance that could cover the debt possibly upon their death, then any lender would be then shooting themselves in the foot, because that's what essentially insurance is for. Anytime you lend money out is so that just in case, worst case scenario, you pass away, the debts are going to be paid out. So what happens when you terminate this contract just so you can get to the short-term debt?
I feel like there's a lot of missing pieces to this puzzle, and I'm sure they have the right people in their corner, but it does open up that conversation or this conversation and something that everybody can learn from.
Well, let's move to like, this is the next article that I thought was really great. So again, if you're not actually, if you're listening to this, fine. But if you are actually here with us on YouTube, you can actually see the articles that we're referencing because we are sharing our screen here. The next article that was written on Monette Farms was Is Bigger Always Better? Becoming bigger, especially I'm sure in the agricultural community, means that you are taking on more debt with the lenders. What Lacy and I do is we primarily really focus on one operation at a time, one family at a time. We're wanting to help you pave a different path so that you can have the best of both worlds, but it's making having to lend from the bank plan B rather than plan A. And mainly because the terms and conditions are always going to be more favorable when you're in control of the debt, when you are the owner of your own debt versus with someone else. Our understanding of what's been happening in Manitoba with, all the different crops and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. I guess it could happen in any province really, is just like drought, bugs. I don't know. There's just so many different things that can,
there's so many variables.
So many variables where you can all of a sudden have like a bad year. And the bigger the operation, the bigger the hit, period.
Because that's the thing. This could be happening to a very small producer, but it's not on the news because they're a small producer.
Mm-hmm.
It could be your backyard farmer, hobby farm. It's just not publicized, which when things are publicized always adds a whole level of stuff to it. But one question that we had was like, wait, why is this in the courts? And it's because they had applied for creditor protection and then it's being overseen by the courts. So that is why they're in court proceedings. So, and then I think it's interesting where it says item 27 in the report summarizes what went wrong in 13 words. Significant expansion, primarily funded from debt, has resulted in significant level of indebtedness. And so no matter what size of producer you are or we are, this can happen. And I remember years and years ago, we went to the bank. We thought, it might be a good idea to buy some yearlings this year and we can make a little money. And we were told point blank, the market is too volatile right now. You will not recover from this. And we said, okay, thank you for letting us know. We're not proceeding. And so it doesn't matter if you're wanting financing for 10 head or 10 acres or however many acres that they are farming. I forget now. It doesn't matter that this can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. If you go further down in that article that you're sharing, it says this Captain Obvious comment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I like that. I do not know Monette Farms at all. I never even heard of them until this article came out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is not what their goal was. This was not their end goal.
Not really. I don't think so, especially when 200,000 acres is also U.S. Yeah. Western Canada and United States rents more than 200,000 acres in Canada and in the US.
Yeah.
They have a lot
so
on
they
the
own
line.
274. Oh,
They have
yeah.
a
They
lot
have a
on the
lot on the line, and
Yeah.
they've stuck their neck out big time. And it also says on the previous article, like they employ 600 people. The mouths that they're feeding, the families, that's 600 employees. That's not even the families that go with those 600 people. And so I am just going to use my heart and my compassion and say, like, this farm had big goals. I don't think this was their end goal, but we can learn from it, and hopefully they can too. It speaks for the value of life insurance. It is affirmation that when we have debt at the bank, they own us.
Yeah, and we have to answer to the terms and conditions that they set out for us. And I think a lot of us do operate a little bit better with structure, no doubt. When we advocate for becoming your own banker, like where you own all your debt, we still have to have a same level of discipline and structure to respect our own money the same way that we would respect the money that's been loaned to us by a lender. And it just comes down to, if you want to grow slow, because slower is faster sometimes. And,
Well,
in this particular case, like, I think it's just human nature to take a look at the situation and grow. The whole nature of this article is like, what was it called exactly? Oh, is bigger always better?
yeah, and I like what.
Yeah.
Keep going down. Okay, I like that sentence that says growth is important for all businesses, but producers should expand their farms in a thoughtful manner, says an agriculture economist at the University of Saskatchewan. It doesn't matter what we do as a business. Growth is important, yes.
Yeah, it is.
But expanding in a thoughtful manner. And then he goes on to say, I like what he's saying down here. If that doesn't happen in a thoughtful manner, the risk of making assumptions that aren't true, such as when my farm gets bigger, I'll be more efficient and more profitable. Or when I make more, I will save more. Or when I make more, I'll start saving. I could just go all day on this. Whenever I
it's like
make
it's just like saying happiness is a certain set of circumstances instead of a certain set of attitudes. Everything's better when a certain circumstance occurs, which is not a thought process that often serves us.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes it is true. If I could get one more hour of sleep, I would be more rested, or I could perform better in my job, like things like that. But you got to be realistic about it. If we're talking about policies here, whenever I make more, then I'll start contributing to my deposit options, and then I'll start operating on my own money that I've built up rather than the bank's money. Well, if you don't ever get started, you're not ever going to get started, whether it's with $1 or $100 or $2 million. It doesn't matter. The point is, if you are willing to take on risk, no matter what that risk is, then you have to be willing to be like, okay, if the drought comes, the gophers eat my canola, disease hits my cows, the market crashes and I'm not selling my calves for what I thought I was going to sell them for in the fall. Like, we have to be prepared for that. And if we're not, these are the kinds of situations that come up. And I think I can speak for every producer and say, this is not the end goal.
Like to end up falling on our face publicly and and losing our shirts to the lenders? No, absolutely not.
Going tits up is not, like, that's a ranch term. Going tits up, because that means your cow's dead, is not the end goal. But we have to be willing to do the hard things.
There's a fine line. We all have to deal with our human condition, like the human conditions that we have, like in the Becoming Your Own Banker book by Nelson Nash. He talks about, in order for us to be successful in stewarding our own cash flow, we have to understand our own human nature. Parkinson's law, when it comes to, when we earn more money, if we don't have intention set aside with what we're going to do with that extra cash flow that's coming in, it's our expenses rise to equal our income. So in this particular case, it's really hard to know. I mean, there's probably a myriad and a collection of choices that were made that led to this particular outcome. of what happened here, a lot of people could probably assume that they got greedy. But is that all summed to, is this situation all a result of greed? I think a lot of people would say that that is probably the case, but I think that it's a lot more complicated than that.
It's so easy to look in from the outside, but you truly don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm. It is our desire to do well. It is our human desire to want to be better than the last time. And the fact that you can actually hope and dream to grow and prosper is a wonderful thing. To actually have a thought process and a certain set of foundational financial principles to help guide you in prospering is honestly the key thing. And the infinite banking concept has a certain set of financial principles that will help you to prosper a lot more thoughtfully. We talk a lot of, like, you can see the vision of it in the Canadian version of the book, Farming Without the Bank, in chapter 13 of our case studies, where we really outline, okay, well, this is where I am. This is how I'm used to doing things. I'm used to lending money, right, from the bank. Mm-hmm. And I have like XYZ an operating expense of this much per year. How can I grow this other path that you're talking about, Winnie and Lacy, where we can make the bank plan B? And how can we make what you guys are talking about plan A? So we walk through that in a certain set of case studies. And it starts off with, what does it look like to take over? And then it kind of moves on to 3 other case studies that kind of walk you through a more long-term generational vision.
Hallelujah. Mm-hmm. Lots of times when we meet with people, they reference those case studies. Hey, I really like that. Or I could see myself in that case study. And so, we could go on about this all day, but coming back to what matters the most and what is at the core of what we do is we know a better way. And we're here to guide you through that. So your first step to starting that journey is learning about it. And if it resonates with you, then you meet with us and we help you walk through setting up your system and your journey to making the bank plan B. So is there anything else you would like to add, Winnie?
It almost feels like we're trying to end and I'm like, and then another idea comes to mind.
No, right?
Because I'm thinking, like, why are they looking to collapse these policies? It just doesn't make sense. They're just like, it's such short-term thinking, and there's so much to gain from keeping those policies alive. Like, I don't understand that.
That's a call to action. If you're listening to this, Monette Farms, ask that question. Is my life coverage being preserved? Because that is important.
Yeah, and if you're not in an insurable place right now where you don't think you could qualify for life insurance right now, please do what you can to keep those policies alive. Please, just keep them alive if you can, because they are worth protecting. They are actually a much more steadfast asset.
They're worth protecting. And like you stated earlier, the death benefit that would be associated with those policies, and we don't know what that death benefit is, but it states that the premium's $2 million. So it's a lot of death benefit. So why give up that death benefit that's going to pay the debts, some or all? It's going to have that death benefit come back to probably the corporation. We're assuming Corp owns it. Anyways, there's so many questions. So we're encouraging you to ask those questions. And if you don't have somebody to ask those questions to, find somebody.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Find somebody that you trust to get those answers, because those are important questions to be asking. Thank you for listening. You can watch us on YouTube. Head over to Spotify, Apple, or iHeartRadio and give us a 5-star review. We would so appreciate it. As always, you know where to go. ranchyourway.com. That's where you're going to grab the book bundle, Farming Without the Bank, and audio book comes with it now. It's where you start, but it's not where you end. So we will see you in the next episode.
So glad you leaned in with us on the Winnie podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.